what has the EU's response to the financial crisis, particularly in Greece, told us about the EU's attitude to austerity and national sovereignty?
Well, I think it's been deeply disturbing to witness the European continent and its response from its leadership to the problems of austerity in the wake of the crisis. What we've essentially seen is the unbalanced mandates of the European Central Bank and the preferences of major member states that maybe weren't quite so affected by the banking crisis to really force the costs of the financial crisis down onto publics in certain member states and certain portions of the EU. It's quite remarkable if you look across the Atlantic to the supposedly much more conservative and less social democratic United States to see how much more progressively the Federal Reserve responded compared to the European Central Bank in terms of stimulus. And as we're only finally brought very recently kicking and screaming in the direction of new sort of monetary approaches and loosening, which was something that the Federal Reserve was quick to do from the very outset. So I do think it's rather strange that we now see sort of those who are setting their stall out against austerity, whether it's here in the United Kingdom or in Athens or elsewhere, arguing the case for a Remain vote and that we should be building a sort of pan-European network of solidarity against austerity. Where was that pan-European network of solidarity when we needed it, when the Greek government and the Greek people needed it? I think until we've got a good answer for that question, we should regard a lot of that stuff as pretty magical thinking on the left.
Okay, so it's become quite fashionable lately for some of those on the left who recognise the very severe limitations of the EU to say, well, we will vote to stay in, but we will reform it. And this has got some level of support from figures like Yanis Varoufakis, Paul Mason. How realistic a prospect is fundamental reform of the EU in your eyes?
Well, it's pretty much saying let's vote to stay in the European Union that we would like to have rather than the one that we're going to have for the foreseeable future. There have been some major changes to the EU in recent decades to do with enlargement that have really given us a coordination problem of monumental scale when it comes to changing and reforming the EU in a progressive direction. I think we've seen an ability to sort of function as a ratchet where neoliberal change can be moved forward, but I haven't seen the ratchet move in the other direction. And the idea that we could coordinate in such a way that we could bring together sufficient power all at the same time within the European Union to overhaul the treaties and regulations seems a bit far-fetched to me. It's proving quite difficult to take power in the Labour Party, let alone in the UK. But the idea that then would depend upon France, Germany, Austria, Latvia coming to the table at the same time with radical governments, it doesn't pass the laughing test.